Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on, YouTube? Diggy546. I'm telling you, folks, it is exciting that we're finally going into a Giant season with actual hope. With actual hope against the Commanders. I'm never, ever really afraid of the Commanders, even though they had so much success last year. Look at how we played them last year. We had Daniel Jones at quarterback. We had Drew Lock. We had garbage at quarterback last year. We've had garbage at quarterback for the last 6 years. So I'm not necessarily concerned about the Commanders, but this isn't me saying that they're a pushover because they did sweep us last year, although the games were close. The games were very close. And I can't remember if last year was a tie or the year before, but the games were close nonetheless. And we did well against this team. That's really the bottom line. And the reason that we did well against this team is because last year we had similar level teams. We had teams that were very close in skill level. The difference is one team had Jayden Daniels, and another team had Daniel Jones and Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito. So that was really the big difference. And Jayden Daniels is like a generational type of quarterback. And when I say generational, I'm not saying like his skill set is generational, but how well he's playing already compared to, most other rookies is generational. He took his team to the NFC Championship. I don't know how much more generational you can get. So Jayden Daniels is absolutely an all-star type quarterback, and that's really the biggest issue that we're going to have to deal with is figuring out how to stop Jayden Daniels. He's a guy that can throw the ball from the pocket. He can sit back there, throw the ball under pressure, downfield, intermediate, short. He does not have a weakness in his game. You start, dropping back, a million guys in coverage and, shadowing that and rushing for. If you don't have a dominant pass rush, he's going to sit back there and he's going to take off and run. And he's going to do whatever he wants, essentially. So we have got to get a pass rush on him. We've got to get a pass rush on him. And on offense, we've got to protect Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson has like a 94 quarterback rating against the Commanders for his career. 13 touchdowns in 6 games. So he's been pretty successful against them. Won again last year. So he's had success against them, and he had success against his defense last year. So I think that counts for something. But he's also got to be protected. He has got to be protected. And Andrew Thomas, Andrew Thomas is a guy that has pretty much announced that he may not be playing. He may not be playing, and that could be a problem because the Commanders don't have that ferocious of a defense. I'm not necessarily terrified of what they have there as far as their pass rush goes, but they do have one man, and that is Von Miller. Now, Von Miller is a guy that has historically wrecked games, wrecked seasons, and wrecked Super Bowls for opposing quarterbacks, and I can definitely see him doing that tomorrow. And this isn't me saying that he's the same player that he was, because he's not. But he still is a guy strictly rushing the passer. He's still got some juice. He's still an elite pass rusher. If you're just rushing the passer, he's going to have some difficulty because he's older. He's not going to have the same stamina. He's not going to have the same strength and the same burst. But just if you tell this guy all you got to do is worry about at this age is rushing the passer, he can do it. And he can do it at a high level. So him going against James Hudson is a problem. And this isn't me saying that I'm already predicting James Hudson to just get destroyed by him because, again, he's not the same Von Miller. And James Hudson, while he's not as good as Andrew Thomas at all, and he has had some struggles, he has not been an embarrassment in camp and preseason at all. So if he can just hold and just keep things solid, give up some pressure, but also, for the most part, hold your own, then I think we should be fine. He also is a guy that I think we can run the football behind. I think he's good there, especially against a guy like Von Miller, a guy who's a lighter. So James Hudson is going to have to step up if for some reason Andrew Thomas isn't ready to go. If Andrew Thomas is ready to go, then I'm not necessarily worried about that defense at all. I'm worried about what we can do. What can we do with Russell Wilson and Malik Neighbors and Darius Slayton, who I think those are 2 great weapons right there. You add in Wandale. I think that's enough to put up points against this Commanders defense. But is it something that we can actually see happen? Because the Giants, we've had talent. and we just have not been able to score. I think we need more talent on offense, but I think our offense is talented enough to put up points against this defense. And I think our defense should be talented enough to stop the Commanders from putting up 25, 30 points. They do have Jayden Daniels. They do have Terry McLaurin. They've historically been able to run the ball well. Austin Eckler at his advanced age is catching the ball out of the backfield, running the ball, just doing crazy stuff. So they have an offense. Obviously, they've been able to put up points with the best of them. But if we can limit that to below 25 points a game, and we can get to 26 or 27, or we can limit them to under 20 points a game, which I think our line is that good. If we can get a lead early and do that, I could see us leaving out of this game winning. So let's look at the Giants' offensive stats last year. So third down, 37%. No good. 20th in the NFL. I mean, converting on 37% of third downs shows why this Giants offense they routinely got off the field, kept the defense tired, lessened the pass rush, and we went from the best pass rush in the league, leading the league in sacks, to just nothing. Of course, Dexter Lawrence got hurt too, but also the defense gets tired game after game where they're just out there forcing a stop, and the offense just goes 3 and out. So they've got to do better there. They got to do better in the red zone. First quarter scoring. I'm going to tell you the Giants' first quarter scoring per game. 2.1 points in the first quarter last year. So that's less than a field goal. The Giants rarely get into the end zone, and they rarely kick a field goal. And in the first quarter, they rarely kick a field goal. They don't even average a field goal in the first quarter. So that just shows you that for the most part, the Giants start extremely slow, especially these last 2 years against the Vikings last year, against the Cowboys, 40-0. They start extremely slow, and they have got to stop doing that. They got to start fast in this first game, and they got to start fast in the first quarter all year long. So how can they do that? So Russell Wilson still can throw the ball down the field on 20-yard throws and more. Last year, 2024, the old Russell Wilson had 45% completion rate and an 111 passer rating. So he's still getting it done. He's still towards the top of the league in deep ball throws. But this Commanders defense is not going to be the type of defense that's going to sit back and allow that to happen. They're going to be sitting back in that cover 2 shell, that cover 4 shell, and they're going to dare us to run the ball. We don't have Saquon Barkley anymore. Tyrone Tracy has shown some flashes. You might think something about Cam Scatterbull, about how good he can be, but the Giants have not proven that they can run a team out of that shell. We just haven't proven that. So until we do, they're going to sit back in that shell, and throwing the ball over the top, which is Russell Wilson's specialty, is going to be very difficult. So this offensive line, whether it's Andrew Thomas, whether it's not, are going to have to come out ready to run the football and set the tone on the offensive side. Because if we can't do that, we can't attack deep downfield. It's going to be more difficult to get that lead early in the game. And we're going to be in a situation where we're playing from behind, and possibly James Hubbard is out there instead of Andrew Thomas, and Von Miller is teeing off on this guy. And all it takes is one horrible matchup on the offensive line for your game to get wrecked. That's really all it takes. And speaking of horrible matchups, I want this Giants pass rush to wreck this game. This is honestly how we should be winning a lot of games this year. To have had Dexter Lawrence last year, and Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns and Azeez Ojulari being the leading sack getters. And this was a point where I think Kayvon was missing games, and then Dex missed the rest of the season. But for the most part, they weren't even all out there at the same time, and they were getting after it. They were getting after the quarterback, leading the league in sacks. They should be doing that this year. Abdul Carter is making his debut. This man has not gotten a haircut in who knows when, and he said he's not getting a haircut until he gets a sack. No sacks in the preseason. A lot of pressures, but no sacks. He's got to get a sack week 1. He's got to cut his hair. He's got to get a haircut. So I'm hoping that Abdul Carter can get in the backfield and get a sack this week. You got Kayvon Thibodeau, not wanting to lose his job. And I think, this isn't a contract year, but next year would be, because I think this is his option year. Or maybe this is. But essentially, this is a prove-it year for Kayvon Thibodeau. He's got to have a big year because he probably wants to get paid. So if this guy can take advantage of a bunch of one-on-one matchups and put up, 12 sacks or 13 sacks and have an impactful year at defensive end or edge, that's going to pay. It's going to literally pay for him. So he's out there looking for something. And then you got Dex. I think the best player at defensive tackle in the NFL. I was on a stream last year with Eagles and Washington fans and Dallas fans, and they were like making an argument that Jalen Carter, I just couldn't see how Jalen Carter is a better defensive tackle than Dex. And I think Jalen Carter is great, but Dex is the best defensive tackle in football, and he's going to win the majority of his matchups. He's just going to win the majority of the time. And then Brian Burns is an animal that nobody respects, that played injured all year last year. And with all of this being said, these players, all four of these guys, should be getting after it. Then you add in Golston, and I really think that this team has this front four. If you include Thibodeau as part of that front four, I'm just saying. And then you add in Will Robertson Harris, who I think gives you a little bit more than what you've had at that spot as far as pass rush goes too. But these four players, these four, standout defensive linemen, rushers, they should take over this game. Now, I know you got Laramie Tunsil, but we got Abdul Carter, we got Brian Burns. They got to make money too. You don't got to win every rep, but you got to win some. So go out there, compete against Laramie Tunsil, compete against Wiley. You should dominate Wiley. They should all be dominating Wiley, and Dex is going to dominate the middle of that offensive line. He's going to do that. On top of that, let's look at the pass rush win rates for Brian Burns. 23% pass rush win rate. I hate saying that. 23% was ridiculous. And I think it's only going to get better this year. So look out for him to have a huge season. And I think it's going to start this game. Abdul Carter, there's been talks about him, getting after the quarterback, but also playing spy. I don't know how to feel about that, because I could very well see him playing spy because he's athletic, but he's playing linebacker, he's playing edge, he's playing, stand-up blitzing the A-gap. I can see him spying a couple of times, but I don't see that as being his primary responsibility. Bobby Okereke is probably going to be that guy, and I feel much better about Abdul Carter being a spy than anybody else on that defense, but I could see them not doing that because he's got so much other things on his plate. But make an impact. And if you tackle Jayden Daniels behind the line, you don't need to spy him. And it's really just about this matchup. The Commanders have put a lot of resources into building up this offensive line. They got Tunsil, they got Conley Jr. This is time for them to either stand up and establish themselves as an elite line, or us to establish ourselves as an elite defensive line. Now, I want to talk about the Commanders. And this Commanders team, anybody that watched this Commanders team last year knows that the reason that they were able to win the way that they were able to is because they were elite on 3rd and 4th down. After that game where they kicked all those field goals against us, they went like 3 or 4 games without punting. And the reason they did that is because they converted on 3rd down, 6th in the NFL, I think about 46% of the time. 4th down, I'm pretty sure this stat is right, and it's ridiculous. 20 out of 23 4th downs for the Commanders. 20 out of 23 4th downs. And this stat is so ridiculous, I'm going to look it up. Because I just want to make sure I have the right rate for this Washington team. Because 20 out of 23 1st downs. And there we go, confirming it. 20 out of 23 1st downs. So crazy that I thought I made a mistake. They converted 4th down after 4th down after 4th down after 4th down in every key situation, and it all started with Jayden Daniels. He made the right decision almost every single time. And, of course, probably those three times, he probably made the right decision maybe once or twice out of those 3 times, and it just didn't work out well. But whether it's dumping the ball off short, whether it's taking off and run with it, whether it's just handing it off to the running back, whether it's him, running the quarterback draw or sneak, they converted on 4th down very well. And these are things that change from year to year, and this could be why the Commanders could fall off this year. But bump whatever everything else says, get off the field on 4th down and get off the field on 3rd down. But if you don't, do not let this team convert on 4th down after 4th down after 4th down. That's just not good. Red zone percentage, 63% in the red zone. That's pretty high up in the league. And they took advantage of every crucial opportunity. When you have a guy like Jayden Daniels, you usually come out victorious in every important situation in the game. It's just how it works. And as far as the first quarter scoring, they averaged. Let me pull it up. Their first quarter scoring last year. The Giants averaged, like I said, 2.1 yards per first quarter. The Commanders averaged 5.8. So essentially, the Commanders usually are scoring a touchdown in the first quarter. Usually, for the most part. 5.8 shows that's pretty close to 7. So they're usually scoring, or they're usually kicking 2 field goals in the first quarter. So they start fast, we start slow. We got to find a way to even that out. They scored a ton of points. They scored almost twice as many points as us last year. So again, we got to shake that Daniel Jones curse off, and we got to get in the end zone, and we got to show up on the key downs on offense and defense. Because it doesn't matter if we sack Jayden Daniels and then the next play we give up a screen and it's 4th and 2 and then Jayden Daniels runs for the 2. It doesn't matter what we do on first and second down there. Commanders defense. Again, this team is not that talented. They're not that talented. They just aren't. They're not ultra talented is what I'll say. They have good players though. They have good players on the defensive line. They got Johnny Newton as a backup defensive lineman. They got Kinlaw. They got Armstrong. They got Daron Payne. They got solid players. Dietrich Wise, I think he came from the Patriots. And then you unleash Von Miller off the edge, who's, a guy, again, that's not an every down player at this point, but a guy that will get after it. Bobby Wagner, old man, but making plays. Luvu, physical freak, animal, going 1,000 miles an hour everywhere. And then you got Lattimore and Amos and Saint still. And then you got your 2 safeties, Harris and Quan Martin. Now, I'm not that scared of this defense as far as the personnel, but that scheme has them playing well. They limit explosive plays, they force long drives, and they usually are able to hold opponents to a decent amount of points. So the key to the game is really going to be getting off to a fast start, running the football, and converting on these third downs, and them not converting on every third down and every fourth down, because that's what they did last year. That's how they made it as fast, as far as they did. That's what they did. They converted in every big moment that Jayden Daniels needed to show up. He showed up, and he showed up perfectly. So let's talk a little bit just about some things I want to see this game. First off, I want to see Andrew Thomas in this game. Hopefully the guy can be healthy and be out there. But if not, it is what it is. I want to see Malik Neighbors start to establish himself as one of those guys in the NFL. He already has, but I want him to be a guy that, instead of having the 11 catch, 100-yard game where, it's nothing wrong with that. I expect to see that. But instead of that being every week where we're just throwing it to him over and over again in the flat and 2 yards and 3 yards down the field, I want him to start making some plays down the field. I want him to start making some plays, 15, 16, 25 yards down the field, 30 yards, and of course 50, 60 yards down the field. I want to see those plays start to happen. I want to see Darius Slayton step up and show that he's the receiver that can be a wide receiver 2 in this league. Do I think he's an elite wide receiver 2? Not necessarily, but I do think that he's a guy that is a wide receiver 2, and with a good quarterback, a competent quarterback, he should be making plays on a consistent basis. And I think he can do that. He's a better route runner than people think. His hands are better than people think. He has drops issues, but for the most part, they're not as bad as people think. And he should be able to win against one-on-one coverage consistently. I'm looking for those 2 guys to step up. I'm looking for Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatterboo to set the tone. Cam Scatterboo's been injured the majority of this offseason, the majority of this preseason. He's got to hit the ground running. We don't have a choice. Tough schedule this year. It is getting easier because teams like the Cowboys are just nuking their seasons. The Chargers lost Rashawn Slater. So, things will get easier than they initially looked. But you just don't want to go out there and drop this game against a division rival when I think this game is very winnable. Are they a talented team? They got a talented quarterback. They got Terry McLaurin. That's really enough if the quarterback's good enough to go out and win some games. But the Giants have got to set the tone on the offensive line, in the run game from those running backs. And if we can run the ball against this team at will, there's no way this team can beat us. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. If we can run the ball at will against this team and the play action starts to, there's no way they're beating us. That's just that. Of course, I want to see Abdul Carter in the backfield. I want to see Dex in the backfield. I want to see all of those guys take over a game because this pass rush is much too talented not to be noticed. I do not want to be sitting in the third quarter or in the second quarter and saying like, is Abdul Carter playing or is Dexter Lawrence playing or is, where are they? They should not be. Jayden Daniels should not be back there, getting to the bottom of his drop and waiting 2 or 3 seconds before he throws the ball. The ball should be out. It should be, if he beats us, it needs to be because he got the ball out quickly every single play and make that guy make a mistake. He doesn't make mistakes, but maybe he'll make one. So I'm excited for this game. I really think this is a good game for us to start the season off against a really good team because they have a good quarterback and because they're so well coached. This is a, momentum building type of game that we can get. If we can win. This is going to build a lot of momentum, especially going into Dallas where that's sort of a mess that they are right now. They got Pickens and they got CeeDee Lamb, but I really think that if we can win this first game, the confidence that we're going into week 2 and then that Chiefs game and then the chart, like this is setting up for the Giants to have a very surprising season if we can start fast in week 1. That's the big if. Because again, I can see us dropping this game, but I could also see us winning it. And because it's week 1, let's get my score prediction. I'm going to say the Giants 28, Washington 24. I'm going to say 28-24. The Giants come out there, win a game, get close to 30 points for the first time in forever. And Washington gets sacked 3 or 4 times and has to play from behind and to go out there and lose their opening game. And people start to question, if last year was a fluke. I don't think it was, but I think people will start to question it. So you all give me your predictions. Give me your bold predictions. I'm going to get Abdul Carter for 2 sacks. I'm going to get Dexter Lawrence for 2 sacks. And that's going to be in the same game. And I'm going to get Malik Neighbors for over 120 yards. For over 120 yards. That's what I'm predicting. I'm probably crazy, but that's what I'm going with for now. You all have a great rest of your week. I will be making some videos because we have some news that's popping out that I can hopefully get to pretty soon. But we got some news popping out, and I will touch on that with Jackson Dart possibly, getting an opportunity sooner than we thought. But in the meantime, you all drop your bold predictions, drop your score predictions down in the comments, and I will see you this Sunday live streaming Washington and the Giants. Can't wait for it. Can't wait. Giants football is back.